It's all about the macro productions.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tactheratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault. He was a retard. I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you're watching us on Rumble, Band.video, YouTube, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks a million. We appreciate your support over the years. Macroaggressions.io is the website where you can find out what we're doing. Go check out activistpost.com. Get on that email newsletter over there. We appreciate our amazing sponsors. If you're interested, if you're in the market for some Bath and Body Works, I'll tell you what, go to Van Man. Check them out. These guys are ideologically aligned with us. Plus, they make killer products that actually work. You can check out their tooth powder. You'll ditch toothpaste forever after you try that. They've got all kinds of different soaps, mouth rinses, a new deodorant that doesn't have any sort of nonsense in it, even vanilla body butter that has ingredients that include grass-fed beef tallow, shea butter, olive oil, honey, vanilla oil. That's it. So not a ton of chemicals in it. There's a lot going on over there. I would encourage you to go check out their website, see what you think, vanman.shop, vanman.shop. Link is in the show notes. If you find something you like, the discount code is MACRO. And even if you don't find anything you like, follow them on X because they're fantastic. It's a great company. Like their stuff. Got a bathroom full of their products. Highly recommend. Go to vanman.shop, promo code MACRO. And also, if you are a homeowner with good credit and a little bit of equity in your house, and you have decided, the idea of paying my mortgage off over 30 years doesn't really sound like a great idea, especially once I understand how the interest is compounded and all that good stuff. Well, what if I were to tell you that you could wipe out your mortgage now? The truth is you actually can. There is a company out there who can help you do it. They're called Replace Your Mortgage. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They've helped over 10,000 people do this. And let me tell you what it's not. It's not a refi. It's not a recast. It's not paying double payments or anything like. You don't need a company to help you do that. You can find out how to do that on the internet, and that is not changing your mortgage. This is something totally different. Too much to explain here. I'll direct you to the video at the website specifically for us, wipeoutyourmortgagenow.com. If you're just curious or interested, and if you think this might be for you, I tell you what, I have been in real estate for 30 years. This is a bank killer. If this is right for you, if you are somebody who owns your home, you've got some equity, you're cash flow positive every month, you're pretty disciplined, you're good, you know what you're doing. This is a strategy that could really work to help you pay off your house in between 5 and 7 years. I am not kidding. This is no nonsense, and it's not a scam. Tell you what, just go to the website, watch the video, you take it from there. Wipeoutyourmortgagenow.com. All right, so I want to do something with this episode that's a tiny bit different. I was inspired after my conversation with Stephen Bassett from Paradigm Research Group, we were talking about, we're talking about UFOs. We're talking about the disclosure of non-human influence that has always been involved in this planet or wherever the hell we are. There's a lot to it. I don't get into this too much. I don't cover this area. I'm not a big UFO researcher. I'm extremely fascinated by it, but I don't pretend to have any secret information. I don't know what Stephen Bassett knows. I'm not in those meetings, and I can speculate and do all that. But the truth is, this is not my area of expertise. It might be the reason I got into this in the first place, because, I don't know how you get to this stuff, but definitely the question of, are we alone? Are there beings from other planets or other places, up in the stars or down below our feet or down in the oceans or wherever? I mean, we are totally lied to about what this place is, who we are, where we are, what we're doing, who's in charge. I mean, everything about this situation is a lie. And I wonder, and I have been wondering, what would happen if the veil were lifted? As we come into this information, you get a bite here and there, some new discovery that you were unaware of, right? You find out about that and you go, oh, this is fascinating, and let me look into this, let me dig a little deeper, and then you do, and then you move on to another topic, and I didn't know about this, and then you go down that rabbit hole, and you go, God, if this is here, what else is here, right? And it leads you down this path where you start to, at some point, you start to have this understanding. I'm pretty sure everything I was taught about the world in which I live in is a lie. Wonder how much I can figure out on my own. I wonder how much, of the truth I can discover. And so what I want to do with this episode is get into, I found a thought experiment that people were talking about online. And and we're going to talk it out on this one, because between this thought experiment, talking to Stephen Bassett, and wondering about what disclosure would actually look like after that talk with him. He kind of said, like, well, what if there was disclosure but nobody cared? What if we'd been so desensitized with alien movies and Terminator movies that they finally said, all right, listen, we have a big announcement. We'd like to let you know, here is Bleep Bloop from Zeta Reticuli, and they bring him out in a press conference. At this point, the mainstream media and the government has so little credibility, I don't know that anybody would actually believe them. In fact, now would be the time. If you wanted to just have full disclosure and come right out and tell everybody everything that's actually going on, now would be the time, because nobody would believe you anyway. And in fact, that actually leads me to this thought experiment. And I'm going to read this, and we're going to, we'll work this out. But what this thought experiment does is says this. This is how it starts. And just follow along, okay? What would happen to society, culture, religion, government, military, the geopolitical landscape, economy, industry, etc., if the following were officially disclosed and proven to the public beyond doubt? Be realistic, logical, accurate, and precise. Okay, so that's the rules. What happens if we were to announce all of these things? And now I'm going to read off some of the things, okay? Now, I want you to imagine, just like the rules say on this, the instructions on this, be realistic about this. I mean, really think about how this would impact you. That's the logical place. Then think about all of the really hysterical people in your life who are unhinged, and just ponder how they would deal with this information. And then think a little bit further down the line and think, what would, the average guy on the street think of something that, what would the guy from Somalia who just came here, what would he think about all this, right? So everybody's going to have a different level of understanding, a level of intelligence, a level of, religious slant to this that they drag. Everybody's going to drag their own personal biases into this, their religious thinking, teachings and the way they see the world and all of this, right? But what if the following things were proven to be true? And I'd like to say this before we start. I'm not saying that all of these things are true. I did not make this list. It's not my list. And some of this stuff may be bullshit, right? Of course. In fact, I think there is bullshit in here. But for what if? Just what if? Okay. Number one, non-humans with superior intelligence and technology exist. Okay. Straight up, aliens exist. And they have better technology than us. That's a fact. Okay. That's the first thing that someone would have to understand here. Then the next point is they have been here for millions of years. Some are hostile that exploit humans as a natural resource. They rigged our civilization to function as a farm, brothel, prison for them. History and religions are heavily manipulated and censored. Truth has been suppressed. Many humans are getting abducted, experimented on, mind programmed, or bred like cattle. Some people are going to have a hard time with this, I can tell. Millions have been abducted permanently, taken to other worlds, or cut up and used for food and body parts. Hostile non-humans have infiltrated our governments, militaries, religions, corporations, and academic institutions. I mean, I think a case can be made for that right now. So, moving on, they have created hybrids and clones that can pass for humans. Your governments can't protect you from abductions. Worse, they've been colluding with the hostiles. Next, they made deals with them in exchange for technology, security, and a promised role in the post-invasion world. Next, the government's been reverse engineering crashed or leased ET technologies by giving that tech to certain favored aerospace corporations to weaponize or commercialize while shutting out other aerospace corporations illegally. Steve Bassett and I talked about that. That is 100% happening. Benevolent non-humans also exist, meaning good ones, the good guys. Good aliens also exist. But our leaders rejected their terms of nuclear disarmament and reorientation towards peace. That is the rumor of the Eisenhower meeting and all that stuff. Again, we're just pretending that all of this is true for the purposes of this thought experiment. Next on the list, the collusion between corrupt human and hostile non-human factions, including joint abduction programs and building of underground bases, the tracking, downing of benevolent alien ships, and the violent integration of their occupants. Next, human civilization is approaching multiple tipping points, singularities, at once. Even without the alien threat, these may decimate humanity. Next. Natural global disaster cycles are also converging in that same time frame. Non-human activity has been increasing since the early 1900s because we're approaching the end of the world as we know it, and they intend to take full advantage of that. Next on the list. Our leaders can't protect us from this either and have instead been building underground and off-world bases to save themselves. That would explain the missing $21 trillion that Catherine Austin Fitts believes has gone underground. Next on the list, they have siphoned humanity's real wealth while propping up the economy through a debt-based system primed to collapse after they retreat to safety. I mean, it's going to collapse one way or the other, whether they're safely retreated or not. They have staged wars, assassinations of JFK and MLK and other key populist leaders and created false flags like 9/11. Are we talking about aliens or the Jews? Maybe we're talking about both. A major alien faction comprised of Greys, Mantids, Reptilians, and hostile Nordics. I've never heard of the Nordics being hostile before. Intend to reshape what's left of our civilization by putting survivors under the yoke of an elite class of gray human hybrids. Next, to prime us for that, they have used their proxies to dismantle human traditional culture and gradually acclimate us to a state of transhumanist hive mind slavery. Well, they're certainly working on that, that's for sure. Next on the list, and this one is definitely happening, they also require depopulation to bring us down to a manageable size, which has already started through the COVID-19 and the sterilization/maiming injections. Your loved ones died for this, and the government is complicit. Well, all that is true. I mean, they are openly carrying out a depopulation program. Now, whether that is at the behest of our alien overlords or not, that is to be determined later, but this is a true statement. Further depopulation is planned through famine, disease, violence, and war. Yes, that's true. Benevolent, non-human factions are willing to help, but they can't stop natural disaster cycles or undo the systemic problems that threaten to collapse our fragile civilization. Next. Ultimately, however, reality is an illusion, a metaphysical hologram populated by conscious energy from outside that illusion. There exists a spiritual war between demonic and divine powers playing out across various levels of the illusion. It plays out within you via the choices you make every day. It plays out in the world via the numerous social, political, and non-human agendas competing for control over human destiny. Almost done here. Next, humanity is being pushed through a bottleneck, a sifting bridge that separates the spiritual from the worldly, divine from the demonic, strong from the weak. This is the divinely intended function of the metaphysical hologram for our world at this time. Only part of the population will survive the coming challenges and cataclysms. Okay, so those are the agreed upon bullet points, talking about what is the truth. Okay, this is the jigsaw puzzle, so to speak. Now, if you were to sit somebody down, this is why I say it's going to depend on the person, right? You sit me down and you explain, you've got a 30 bullet points here, and you say all these things are true, like they're true. I could go through them and agree with quite a few of them. I mean, there's some of it calls for speculation. Like I don't know if the Eisenhower government made a deal with Valiant Thor, the guy from Venus, or the Tall Whites, or the Nordics, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't born. I'll never know that, right? You hear quite a bit about that, and I think it's tempting for, look, the average person out there is not understanding what is going on in this world that they live in, right? They turn on the TV, they think they're getting informed, they're not. I have problems extrapolating out how the general public would react to information like this when I saw how they reacted to me questioning the vaccine. They were totally unhinged on that. And that is like, I don't know, scientifically backed. I can show you studies and I can bring up facts and I can show you people who are dropping dead from it. Like, that's an easy one to prove. And people are still in denial of it. So, the initial premise of this is that if this was proven beyond a officially disclosed and proven to the public beyond doubt, the problem is that I don't know that you can prove anything to the public beyond a doubt. You can show them, because this is the most frustrating component of my job, is that I was of the belief that if I just laid out a logical and clear argument with enough facts and did it in a way that flows, I could sit somebody down. I could say, you used to believe that, but take a look at this. Here's a new way of looking at it, laid out the right way. You check my work, logical, boom, boom, boom. Here's the facts. This is what actually happened. That thing that you believed was told to you by these people because they want you to feel a certain way because they have an agenda. Here's the truth. What does Yuri Bezmenov say about that? About people who've been demoralized? I can shower them with authentic information. It won't change their mind. They've been demoralized. They're broken. So do I expect a bunch of people to actually have this information disclosed and then proven to the public? The public has a hard time believing things that you can prove to them right now that are not supernatural or from another world. I have issues. I mean, I have a problem thinking that this would actually, work. Where you could sit everybody down and say, look, all right, we've been lying to you for, ever. And now we're not. Now we're telling you the truth. The truth is we're not alone. There are aliens here. They've been here for a long time. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. The bad ones are really bad. And if they get a hold of you, they will take you underground and rape you to death. Right? That's pretty bad way to go. Right? And the good ones would be willing to give you your government's magic powers, but your government doesn't want the magic powers. They want to kill everybody instead. Like, that makes sense to me. That's part of the story I could definitely get on board with. And look, everybody pretty much knows they're being lied to by their government and media and television, right? It's just a matter of degree. I mean, you know that. Right? So what if the system became too overloaded? Like where we are now, we're in a world of lies. And the mainstream media and the government and some of these corporations, they're all trying to, put their fingers in the hole of the dike, right? Like boom, boom, like let's try to cover this up and let's try to paper over this potential war. Let's say that it was actually something else, that it wasn't this. At some point, you can't cover up for all the lies. It's just too much, man. There's just not enough fingers and toes left. And so what if, as this said, the secret keepers made deals to keep themselves alive and out of a cage, and the truth started to slip out about how the world really works? What if that were to, I mean, it is. It's slipping out in some ways. Like if you're into, depending on what kind of content you're into, this information has been out there for a while, but we're talking about just the average person who gets up and goes to work and has a job and has kids and doesn't have time to think about all this. What impact would this have on his day-to-day life? The truth is, really, early on, probably nothing. I mean, it has, in a sense, the same impact that what would a war in the Middle East do to me? I would know about it. I would be angry about it. I would be concerned about it. But would it impact me? No, I don't live in the Middle East. There wouldn't be bombs falling on me. So depending on your, lot in life, you may have no impact by this. But intelligence matters. Don't kid yourself, right? I do wonder what the response would be in areas where the IQ levels are extremely low. I wonder what this would look like in sub-Saharan Africa, where the average IQ is 68. American average is 100. Standard deviation is 13. How do you explain it to them? Western Europe average IQ 97 to 104. You can lay it out there. You can't do that in sub-Saharan Africa, So the messaging has to be different. What's the messaging in Asia going to be like when the IQ is between 101 and 107? They will sniff through the bullshit. 85%. This is an important point to make. 85% of the world's population identifies as religious. I think this group will be easier to manipulate. They already believe in the imaginary man in the sky. They already believe in these stories. I think you could tell them a new story. They may not handle the disclosure well, especially with very hardcore religious beliefs. They may not appreciate a challenge to the story, to their narrative, to their guy, talking about the way the world works. When you insert aliens into that, we got a problem. Did Jesus know about aliens? Did Muhammad know about aliens? Was Jesus an alien? Is Muhammad an alien? Like, I mean, seriously, if you get to a point where this is a known thing, you have to start asking about all those stories. You go, God, let me go back and look at that. Like, what was that? Maybe they're talking about chariots in the sky. Well, hang on a second. Flaming chariots in the sky. Maybe they are talking about UFOs, right? And so you start this whole thing. What does that do to religion? What does that do to the underpinnings of society? When everyone starts going, you know, I used to feel like I was anchored in my religion. Now I feel like I'm adrift. I don't know what to believe anymore. The alien overlords came in. They didn't actually do anything to me except they just fucked up my entire belief system, and now I don't know what to think. Right? So that is you know, people could be dogmatic in defending their guy. Right? They don't want you come in here and start talking about a different, you know, again, we were taught that human beings are at the top of the food chain, right? We're the smartest, we're the best, we're the greatest, we're the greatest. We're going to make humans great again. That's what Trump, he'd run on a platform and make humans great again in the aftermath of this. Somebody would, right? This would be crazy. But what happens when you're not anymore? When you get that reality check, when you go, oh, we used to eat all the animals that, you know, that we wanted to. It's like, oh yeah, but now you get hunted. Oh, well, that might change things. In fact, I think it would change things quite a bit. So they went on to talk about this a little bit more. They said this is a multi-page document. I just want to keep going a little bit. They then said, look, after we established these, say, 30 bullet points of, let's just pretend that everybody knows that this is now the truth. Then they say we're going to break this down into 4 phases, post-disclosure 4 phases, okay? The phased breakdown of society. This is how we'll describe it. It's a realistic look at what might really happen. Okay, so phase 1, 72 hours, the first 72 hours after disclosure. Total institutional meltdown. Global financial markets instantly crash 80 to 95% and never recover in their old form. Every pension fund, insurance company, and debt instrument becomes worthless overnight because the moment people realize the entire post-World War II economic order was a rigged illusion, just becomes impossible to keep it going. So imagine that. It's like the bank run scenario that we've kind of half role played here. You know, Thursday things get weird. Friday morning your bank is closed. They say, we had some bad bank software virus. We're working on it. It'll be open by Monday. Monday comes. We're still working on it. Tuesday comes. You know, the banks are closed. And you go, that was fast. That's how that would happen in a banking collapse, real fast. So when I see this phase 1, first 72 hours and all this, the markets will respond poorly. Obviously, 72 hours. If you made this announcement on a Friday when the markets were closed, Saturday, Sunday, you wait till Monday morning, it'd be the greatest Black Monday event ever you've ever seen. But within 72 hours, yeah, I think that this might be a stretch to say that everything would become worthless overnight, but it would be very tough. In the investment world, they'll call it a falling knife, right? You don't know where the knife is going to eventually stick. You don't know where the floor is. So in a situation like this, everybody would be wondering where the floor is, and everybody would be out, and then the floor would present itself as as the actual floor, meaning this has your fiat. Fiat means by decree. Your fiat currency is no longer valid. It was sold to you by the same government system that lied to you about all the aliens forever. So that group has no credibility. You shouldn't trust them with anything. They're behind your religions. They're behind your government. They're behind your money. They're behind your pension fund. They're probably behind the corporation you work for. They're behind law enforcement. They're behind the TSA. They're the government. It's every component of your life the organization that runs every component of your life has been lying to you about the most important thing that you could ever possibly know. And that is that you are in fact not alone and that there are other beings that live here, right? So as soon as you sort of internalize that and got yourself nice and mad about that, you would never trust the government from that point forward. They go on to say that in this 72-hour first phase, every major religion fractures immediately. The Vatican, Mecca, Jerusalem, Salt Lake City, Lhasa become flashpoints for mass riots, suicides, and sectarian violence. Hundreds of millions conclude their faith was a deliberate lie, which it was. Hundreds of millions others declare it a demonic deception and convert to whatever new revelation feels truest. Okay, by the way, this is obviously just a thought experiment, fictional exercise. None of this stuff is really happening, right? We're just role-playing it and working it out. This isn't from a movie, though it could be. They go on in these first 3 days, mass psychogenic illness on a planetary scale. Suicide rates spike 1,000 to 5,000% in the first week. Psychiatric wards and emergency rooms overflow. Oh, now they're overflowing. Oh, now the psych wards are overflowing. If I were in charge, I could get the psych wards to overflow tomorrow. If you granted me the power to do that. You don't need an alien invasion to fill the psych wards. You just need a little bit of money and the authorization. Every government on Earth loses legitimacy simultaneously. The anarchists win. It would be a short victory, though. I assure you. It would be like, yay, we won. No more government. Fuck. It'd be like, now we've got a whole new set of problems, right? The government is gone. That's a good thing. Now we have to deal with a bunch of people that are whipped up into a frenzy, possibly thinking that the end of the world is coming. This is going to be bad. They go on to say that military chains of command dissolve as soldiers realize they have been guarding a farm, not a nation, a body farm. Yeah, you've been guarding the United States of America, where they've been farming children, they've been stealing children, and taking them underground or worse. So yeah, mutinies, coups, and defections become the norm within days. I think that if you did have an underground bunker, and don't we all, you'd probably want to be in it for this one. This would be the time. This would be, the storable food. Gosh, I should have done the ad read for Augustin Farms. You get the storable food, right? This would be the time to go down and test out that storable food. The Augustin Farms storable food, I know, is way better than the other stuff that they have because it's like, it's very item specific. Like you can actually take it and make it into food. And in the first 72 hours, well, you'd be working through your pantry. But after that, maybe in phase 2. What is phase 2? Well, phase 2 is the first 3 to 12 months. Okay, this is fragmentation and warlordism. United States warlords. Can you imagine? The nuclear arsenal becomes the only remaining hard power. Several are used. Pakistan, India, Israel, Iran, possibly North Korea. This is, again, it's a fictional scenario. Because command and control breaks down and local commanders believe the apocalypse is here anyway. Yeah, Israel would institute the Samson option immediately. They'd be like, how do we get rid of all these? How do we get the aliens to feel sorry for us for this Holocaust thing from 80 years ago that never happened? Cities empty as people flee to rural areas to try to reach rumored, quote, safe zones, or benevolent aliens supposedly protect. Supply chains collapse. Within 4 to 6 weeks, most urban areas are out of food and fuel. Now, just take aliens out and replace that with EMP. Because the same thing would happen. You don't need a full alien disclosure. Part of what's nice about this little scenario that we're playing out is that we're doing it in the name of what if the aliens were announced and everybody freaked out. But what if an EMP went off and everybody freaked out? Because it's the same thing. It doesn't take a whole lot to throw society into chaos. Mass power outages that last a long time, inability to get fuel. Like they said, this would be supply chains collapse within 4 to 6 weeks. Most urban areas are out of fuel and food. We saw what happened when grocery stores were low on toilet paper. Clean up on aisle 5. Knock some guy's teeth out, currency becomes worthless. Barter, gold, ammunition, and food only become the only mediums of exchange. Oh, again, back to my wise wolf. You guys, this is part of the reason why I have the sponsors I have. And Tony Arterburn has been on this show half a dozen times talking to you about, please have some silver, please have some gold, please have some of this stuff out of the system, just in case. Now, again, this is an alien invasion, right? This is not probably going to happen this weekend, right? But it doesn't matter because this still remains the same. If the power grid goes down, if the internet goes down, if everything turns off, be there aliens or not, if it's aliens doing it or Donald J. Trump doing it, I don't care. You're still going to have the problems that will require things like barter and gold and ammunition and food as the medium exchange. Hell, alcohol, batteries. I mean, start thinking about the thing. Whatever you ran out of becomes pretty valuable if somebody else has it and you need it. So you may say, I'm not really in a financial position to be buying gold coins right now. They're now over $5,000 an ounce. Fine. I understand. Totally. I get it. You could buy bullets though. You know what I mean? You could be the guy who's got just stacks of bullets too. I'm not trying to make people paranoid, right? I really am not. And the truth of the matter is that it's like anything. It's like even the company that provides your internet. It's like 99.97% up. And you're like, that sounds like almost 100% of the time. Until it's the 0.03% when you go, oh, it's that one time it's out. It's like, well, we didn't tell you it was 100%. Remember, we did give you a little wiggle room, right? So there's a possibility that everything could go to hell and you may need to have your storable food and you may be in some barter situation. It's becoming more and more likely. It's not becoming less likely. I'll tell you that much. I don't know if we could put a percentage on the chances of this happening, but it's not zero. Maybe it used to be. Maybe it was just like with the preppers, and the preppers were a little kooky, and they would talk about it's coming tomorrow, and you go, it's probably not. And you could be dismissive of it and go, those preppers with their ideas are kind of kooky. Well, they are, yes, but they're not wrong. And being early makes you sound crazy, always. So, more on this. So in that 3 month to 12 month window, which is where I would say, a lot of the chaos is going on, they go on to say militias, cults, and local strongmen take over most territory outside of a few hardened military sites. Some declare themselves protected by the benevolent ones. Others openly worship the hostile factions. So everything splinters into small groups. This is why you need a gun. This is why you need multiple guns, right? This is why people are always telling you, you need to actually be prepared, because as they say in this situation, between 4 to 6 weeks, most urban areas are out of food and fuel. All right, so where are the millions of people in the urban settings going to go? Well, they're going to go out to the suburbs. They're going to go out and see what you've got. And they're going to come to your farm. And they may not be nice. And they're not going to be asking, can you please help me? They're going to be telling you, my family's dying. I will kill you and your family just so that my family can stay alive. And that's how it's going to be, right? So it would be chaotic. I think that is putting it mildly. But what's interesting is what they said in here about protected by the benevolent ones, because immediately what these groups do, what do? start lying to everybody about the situation. They start propagandizing people. They start doing, once they click up into these militias and cults and groups, they start doing what the government does, which is lying to everybody and saying, or the religious leaders too, I'm the chosen one. I'm part of the group. I'm part of the good guys group. And you go, well, how do I know that? Because that sounds like something the bad guys would say if they wanted me to think that they were the good guys. So there's there will be a lot of nonsense. Hell, it might look like the Central African Republic, right? If you go to some of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa that are embroiled in civil wars, what winds up happening there? Warlordism, right? Why? Because the government is really weak and the people don't trust it, and so there's very little structure. And so some guy says, I'm the boss, and everyone says, well, I don't think you're the boss. And then he shoots a bunch of people in front of the crowd, and they go, yeah, I guess he's the boss. And then he becomes and then that's how it is, right? So that's what they're saying. Expect that in the first year. Expect that in the first 3 months, in fact. That's what they're saying. And lastly on this list, in the first year kind of window, underground base personnel and the global billionaire class vanish into their bunkers, confirming the betrayal narrative. This triggers worldwide hunts for, quote, the elite and anyone perceived to have collaborated. That would be fun to watch. That would be like the Hunger Games in reverse, right? Like, we're going to get all these people and, we're going to hunt down George Soros. We'll do the human hunting parties to them in Belgium the way they would do it with the poors and their children, that they would set out there like they were fox hunting and go out there. It's the most dangerous game, as you know. We know about that. We know who these pieces of garbage are. Let's move on to phase 3. Phase 3 is from the end of year 1. You've just wrapped up the first year. I'd say most of the chaos that's going to happen is going to happen in that first year. That transition period is going to be brutal. There's going to be some people that the world will have not changed at all for them. Like anybody who's living in Afghanistan, well, unless they're getting bombed. But, yak herders in Mongolia aren't going to notice anything. People in Tibet probably aren't going to give a shit. Some guy in Botswana is just taking care of his goats, and he has no idea that there's an alien invasion or perceived one. So it's not like everybody's going to be impacted by this, but the people that are paying attention, anyone who's watching the news will know about it, and that will play into how they respond, how they react to this. Phase 3, years 1 through 10, neo-feudal dark age with alien overlays. Sounds great. They talk about how the global population would fall from 8 billion, which I am of the belief that number is a lie anyway, but let's just say it's a real number, to perhaps 1 to 2 billion. Through a combination of starvation, war, disease, suicide, and whatever depopulation programs were already in motion. So you would talk about anywhere from 75% to about 85% of the population just gone. No longer here. Surviving pockets of humanity split into roughly 5 types of society. Would you like to know what the 5 types are according to this thought experiment? Well, first one is human theocracies. Human theocracies that accept the spiritual war framing and try to live in accordance with whatever they believe the divine side wants. Okay? So that's one. A different one of the 5 pockets of society would be explicit slave societies run by hybrids or open non-human overseers in regions where the hostile factions win. All right, so basically District 9 in South Africa, like the movie District 9, did you see that? That's what it is. Third option, techno-survivalist enclaves that reverse-engineered leftover alien tech and maintain 21st century capabilities at the price of extreme authoritarianism. That doesn't sound good. I mean, we've got some of the technology, but we're in an authoritarian system. How is that different than what we're in now, where one group of authoritarians has the reverse engineered the technology and use it? I mean, it's pretty much the same thing we got now. The fourth type of society would be primitive hunter-gatherers or neo-tribal groups that reject all technology above the Stone Age just simply out of distrust. Yeah, that's the yak herders. That's those guys. They just go, you know what? Fuck, I don't give a shit if there's aliens. It's not going to impact me. I got to move my sheep from point A to point B today, and then tomorrow I got to move them somewhere else. And if the aliens would like to help me with that, I would love it. Otherwise, I don't have time for this bullshit. So some people aren't even going to care. And lastly, on this type of society, small number of humans who made direct alliances with benevolent non-human factions and live in protected zones off limits to the hostiles, but under strict non-interference or spiritual conditions. Collaborators. basically collaborators. No, but I mean collaborating with the good aliens. See, we have to have the good aliens to fight the bad aliens, guys. Don't you know that? They go on to say that in this 1 to 10 year time frame, knowledge of history, science, and pre-disclosure culture is almost completely lost outside of a few isolated archives. Most children born after year 0 grow up believing the disclosure narrative is the only reality that ever existed. Well, I mean, this is easy to believe because we understand how easily it is to change history. It's written by the victors and it's written by kings, and if they don't like the way that it portrays them, they rewrite it. They maybe even leave out entire centuries from the history books. I mean, we talk about the Dark Ages and we've got Tartaria questions. There's a lot going on. Our history books are filled with lies. We know that. You might want to go watch the movie Red Dawn again. You know what I mean? Kind of a little inspiring. You know, you might, in the aftermath of this, you get yourself a can of spray paint, start spray painting Wolverines on the side of schools and things like that. I mean, there's going to be not too many, right? To be fair, not too many, not enough. You mostly live in the world of fantasy, but these Red Dawn scenarios where people were prepped, people were ready, and they're like, God, you guys want to come out, you know, and it's not, the plot of Red Dawn was that the Soviet Union invades America and they catch America off guard. They parachute in all these guys and it just kind of catches like these small towns off guard. And some of the local residents decide to fight back and hunker down and say, oh, we'll be our own little guerrilla army and we'll fight back against that. I would expect that to happen. Not against the aliens in the scenario, but against the city people coming out to the woods to try and get the supplies and everything. This won't be like American on Russian violence. It would be American on American violence because it would be all of the people who have walked from New York City to the Ozarks to try and find food or shelter or something. And then they get there and all the people who are holed up in the Ozarks said, you're not coming here. We'll take care of that. So again, I feel so I do have sponsors that help with all this stuff. I keep thinking of August and Farm. I think of EMP Shield, you know, like, oh, you might want to get one of those. Above Phone, you know, I don't know. There's possibilities out there. By the way, for I'd like the record to reflect that we have been screaming bloody murder on every one of my Flashback Fridays. There's an ad that runs for Wolfpack Gold and Wise Wolf Bitcoin. Again, you guys, the fiat currency scam is going to come to an end at some point. You don't want to be the guy looking for a chair when the music stops. You want to be well ahead of everybody else. And so I say the same thing I say on that ad read for Tony, which is, if you want to convert some of your soon-to-be worthless Federal Reserve notes into actual tangible things like gold, Tony can do that. He can take your IRA and 401k and do that. And people better start heading for the exits, because if you're waiting for CNN or MSNBC or Fox News to tell you the game's up, the currency system is falling apart. It's never going to happen. So you're going to have to be prepped in advance of that. So, well, let me finish this, because then they go into the final phase. They say phase 4, long term, centuries. Okay, what happens in the centuries after this? The hostile factions do not need to, quote, invade in the Hollywood sense. They simply step out of the shadows and govern openly wherever they have critical mass. Greys, reptilians, mantids, and their hybrid elite become the overruling caste in large parts of what used to be Europe, North America, and East Asia. Benevolent factions remain mostly non-interventionist, perhaps evacuating or protecting a remnant population the way some indigenous tribes were moved to reservations. Oh, great. I'm in the alien ant farm. I don't want to be on the Indian reservation that the aliens have created for me. I mean, it's bad enough when the Americans create those reservations. I don't want to know what the mantids have in store for me. Then they say that Earth enters a new equilibrium, a depopulated, low-technology planet with pockets of high alien technology wielded by non-human or hybrid ruling classes, and vast wilderness zones where unaffiliated humans live in pre-industrial conditions. Yeah. Doesn't sound that bad. I mean, you're camping. There'll be a segment of society that will be outside into the wilderness zones. Does that not sound exactly like Brave New World? I mean, that's it. That's kind of what they were talking about. And lastly, on this long-term phase 4, the holographic illusion, spiritual war, metaphysical framework becomes the dominant paradigm everywhere, replacing both scientific materialism and traditional religions. Every surviving culture interprets the events as the apocalypse or the final sifting described in their own terms. Okay. Are you depressed enough now? If the alien overlords come, there's going to be problems. Good news, I guess if there's any good news, traffic is going to be way better. The bad news is that's going to be because of mass suicides from a bunch of people that, I mean, like if COVID was kicking their ass, like I don't know if they're ready to handle mantids. That might just be a bridge too far. An alien too far for them. They're like, I was fine with grays, but once you inserted 10 feet tall insects that look like praying mantises that want to conduct surgeries on me, I decided a gun in my mouth was the better way to go. Holy shit. I mean, look, let's do something, like just for a second here. Take the alien component out, all right? Because I know it gets cartoonish and it gets Hollywood. What about this, though? Here's something a little bit more reasonable. What about an earthquake? What about a supermassive volcano? What if Yellowstone went off? I'm in the area, a little outside of Denver. I'm in the area that it's like, if Yellowstone goes off, they show like the radiuses. I'm like, thank God I'm that close. I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, I'm going to live, but I'll be buried in 11 feet of volcanic ash in my house in Augusta, Georgia, right? No. I want to be the guy that gets it in 4 seconds. It's like, you're done, right? Boom. What if there were floods or landslides or famine, or if the fresh water is gone? Like, any of these sort of natural occurrences could trigger a situation that has similar effects. Obviously, it's not going to be ideological, because an earthquake is much different than aliens with regard to religion. But the idea of people being forced to move, massive amounts of people being caught off guard and dying immediately, our technology being wiped out, maybe reset, things like that. That could happen with an earthquake. That could happen with a solar flare, some large Carrington event that sends us back to the Stone Age. And again, that's not like a million years ago when those things happened. Like the last big one was like in the late 1800s, and it fried all the telegraph poles and things like that, and it was a real problem. If that happened today, we'd have some similarities here. So it's it's tempting to be like, oh, this would never happen. And it probably won't. But some of the lessons and some of the scenarios that were kind of role played during this thought experiment are valid and would remain regardless of what the catastrophe was. The last thing in their sheet that they put out was, which I think is extremely interesting. This is sort of the conclusion of the thought experiment. And it says, what would not happen? Okay. This is what would not happen. There is no unity against the common enemy. The disclosure is too total, too humiliating, and too religiously charged for a unified human resistance. So what they say is the idea, if you have this thought that the aliens are going to come and we're going to say, oh my God, this is such a massive threat to humanity that we, human beings, need to unite together and fight they're saying that's not going to happen. The idea of humans coming together, uniting against a common enemy is delusional. It's not going to happen. I agree with that. Yeah, there'll be pockets of people that will say that. But everybody? No. Because you have to factor in demoralization. Because because the response to this is going to be very different depending on the people. Some people will put a gun in their mouth, right? Some people will be furious. They'll say, I'm going to hunt down every government, every fucking scientist I can get my hands on, every government. It'll look like Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge. They'll kill everybody that was connected to the state, everybody that was connected to education and science, that they'll get to the point where they just start killing people with glasses, like the Khmer Rouge did. So I could envision this scenario. What would not happen? Kumbaya. That ain't happening. They go on to say, governments do not reform or regain trust. They simply cease to exist as meaningful, in a meaningful way for 95% of the population. How would you ever trust the government again? I know that people say, well, not everybody was in on it, and there were some good people in the government. Good people in the government are the same as good cops. There aren't any. By definition, the minute you take that job, you're a bad cop because you're enforcing unjust laws and you're defending and backing the guy. So same thing. There's no good guys in government. The second you accept that job and you start participating in the system and defending the other people in the system, you're already on the wrong team. So 95% of the population, the government would cease to exist for that. Let's bump that number up. It needs to be 100%. What else would not happen? The economy does not transition. It vaporizes and is replaced by feudal alien overlord systems. So all of you blue-haired leftists out there that are in the streets screaming about capitalism, have you ever had alien capitalism? Have you ever had an alien overlord feudal system imposed on you? Because you might want to get out in the streets for that one, you commie. Moving on, science as we know it dies because its institutional basis and claim to authority are seen as part of the deception, which is true. It would be. Okay, I'll wrap up with this. This is the last paragraph they say. In short, the scenario you describe is functionally equivalent to instantly proving that literally every foundational pillar of modern civilization, material and spiritual, was a deliberate lie run for the benefit of predatory aliens. No society in history has ever survived that level of simultaneous ontological. Oh my God. Ontological. I can't even read that word. What emerges on the other side would not be human civilization 2.0, but dozens of post-human and alien-dominated micro-civilizations in a new dark age that makes the fall of Rome look like a minor recession. So, I mean, how do you quantify societal collapse of trust in all systems simultaneously? The government, banking, religious, media, education, science, computers, if they're still... search engines, AI, you can't believe anything. The collapse of all the systems, you wouldn't be able to trust anybody. So anyway, so I think about this. I wondered about this and talking to Steve Bassett about what disclosure would be like and wondering, you know, are we ready for that? And thinking about like, well, maybe that you need like pre-disclosure. Maybe that's what we've been getting. Maybe what the predictive programming from Hollywood has been that sort of a taste. Like, hey, we're trying to tell you what's going on, but we can't come right out and tell you what's going on because you'd freak out, and we freaked out when we found out about it. But we definitely want to make this movie called Close Encounters, and we definitely want to show you this, and we want to show you Minority Report. We want to show you some of this technology. We're kind of dripping it out. Guys, we're showing you where we're going with the technology. Isn't it amazing that they have this movie, Minority Report, that comes out in 2002, and all this technology they're talking about is all futuristic, and then we get to 2026, and half the technology that they showed us in that movie exists already. And you start to go, did they make the technology because they saw the movie, or was the technology there before the movie and they just used that as soft disclosure? So there's a lot of ways that this can go. Of course, Steve Bassett's been working on this for 3 decades to try and get disclosure, and I hope he sees it in his lifetime. As he mentioned, he's 80 years old, and I hope he gets to see this. I mean, but what if disclosure only covered the government part, but left out like the non-human part? What if instead of they said it wasn't the aliens, but everybody came to just know, to understand that the government was incompetent, and that the science was based on lies or anything. It'd be not the whole story, right? But it more like, I don't know, disclosure light, right? Look, I'm not saying that I believe all of this, but it's an interesting thought experiment. People are asleep, and they need to be led, and that's the hard reality. I would say this: whatever you do in your own life, just make sure that when the time comes, you reject your alien overlords and maybe try to move out into the woods and survive. I'll see you out there. Hey, if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. If you want to connect with me, macroaggressions.io. Rate the show. Give us 5 stars. Help us fight this algorithm battle. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you again soon.